Hey everybody, it's Reed, and I'm back with Lisa Hutt in another in our series of Construction Accounting 101. Hey Lisa, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Reed?
I can't complain. I'm about 8 out of 10. So today we're going to talk about auditing in construction. And we're going to be talking about, the things that you can provide an auditor and the things that they will expect. So Lisa, I'm just going to kind of dive right in. When I think of audit, I think of like the IRS is going to audit me. Is that what we're talking about here?
No, this is actually a financial audit. So you have different levels that a construction company could go through. You have a full-on audit, you have a review, and you have compilations. So a full-on audit would be, I'm going to do some testing, I'm going to look at your numbers. It's the most robust type of financial assurance you can get. A review is more analytical. I'm looking at your numbers. It's a step down from an audit, but I'm looking at your numbers still, and I'm going to obtain some backup, but I'm not going to do as much testing as I would as an audit. And then a compilation is purely getting numbers from your client. The accountant will put the numbers together, and a compilation really doesn't have a whole lot of assurance behind it. So, but we're going to talk about audit in this one for sure.
So is it required? Is it mandatory? Is it voluntary? How does it work?
Yeah, so a lot of factors can drive whether you need to go through an audit or not. If you have a bank, that requires an audit. If you have a bonding company, if you have just you as a company, you want to go through one just to provide yourself as an owner assurance that my numbers are correct. I have my accounting staff not doing things they shouldn't be doing. They're testing controls as well, and things like that. So you could do it without having a requirement by any sort of outside agency or company like a bank or bonding company. So,
okay, makes sense. And I think that's specifically, we see it more in construction, right? Because of things like banking relationships and bonding relationships and stuff like that too, right?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
That would be true.
So I think you've created an auditor dashboard within Sage Intacct Construction. Why don't you take us through kind of, what that's all about and how an audit works?
Sure. So when you go through an audit, you basically obtain and collect data, you close your books, you give some information to an auditor so that they can perform their job. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was creating access, creating a dashboard for your auditor inside of Intacct. So some companies are completely fine doing that. Others, would rather give the information out to the auditor manually. With security, with things you can do in Intacct, you can pare down security so they can't drill and see everything that you can. You can also make it wide open if you want. Okay. So it just depends on your preference. Okay. So on this specific dashboard I've created to help your auditor out, which also helps you guys out, it's going to help the flow of information between you and them. So number one, they're going to give you a list before you start your audit. It's called a PBC list, prepared by client, check list of items they want from you. So some things they might typically request that aren't financially related, but board minutes. I've got an org chart, got litigation and some new debt agreements and stuff. So I can make a checklist up here of items, the list that the auditor gave me. I can assign it out to my team. So my CFO, I might put him on these 3, right? And I'm going to be responsible for the reconciliations. I'm the controller, right? I can give it a status. I can say when I want that due, when did it actually get completed, and then percent complete if I'm about halfway done getting my data collected. Also, I've put this record number on here. So I'm controller. I can click on my task. I can edit this and drag an attachment, the exact thing right here into the attachments.
That's great.
Yeah. So then the auditor, when they log in, this is what the auditor is going to see. They can just click that record, get the attachment, and everybody's aware of where it's at. There's no email back and forth, and you might have 4 auditors at your company if you're large enough so they all get it. So it's really nice and handy with this checklist feature.
It's common. And then you also have it for historical reference too, if you ever need to, right?
Exactly. So I'm logged in as a person that does not have the collaborate feature, but also wanted to point that out. If the auditor has the collaborate on, it's a chat feature. Hey, I didn't see the board minutes for a meeting in January. I will get, then the CFO would get a little chat up here, and then I can reply back and attach them in. So it's really cool with Collaborate too with your auditor.
I think that's one of those things where, when we're talking to owners about, why they would want to make a switch to something like Sage Intacct for construction, these are the small little details right here that are going to save your company time. It's going to save your company money. If you're regularly going through audits, you may save money over a long period of time because you're really easy to work with. Not to say that there's any biased judgment and rates on how difficult somebody is to work with, but in essence, it's this type of thing that is centralizing the communication too.
Yep.
We're not having to go back if somebody says, hey, we gotta take a look at the audit we did 3 years ago. Somebody's not having to go back and scrap for all of that information in a variety of email threads, et cetera, that then could take that person out of your really focusing on higher value tasks for a month or more.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some companies go from an audit to review because they have, a person, a CFO or a controller that's very well versed in closing books, and the auditor and the bank and the bond, they're all, hey, your guys' books are clean. We see the Rex match. So I've seen 3 years of an audit, and then they level down to review, which saves your company money. And then going through an audit is stressful for people, at times.
Yeah, exactly. It can be, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It can be, especially, if everything is sort of here, there, and everywhere, it does become way more difficult to audit your company. So this dashboard is phenomenal.
Yep. So then also you can load my trial balance, my drillable trial balance. This is huge, by the way. So that if I am an auditor and I'm like, what the heck is this? I don't have to then come into your office and ask for the detail. Then I got to wait for you to get the detail, push it out. That time savings between your staff collecting info and the auditor and back and forth and miscommunicating is just so huge. They can just come in here and drill down into anything they want that's blue here. So very powerful with drillability. And then you've got your dates up here. So if I want to look at 12/31/2024, right? We're not quite there yet, but I want to look to the future, which auditors do. I can quickly change it. I can refresh, and my filters up here will change the report I have loaded here.
That's great.
So they like to do that a lot. So that's why the drillable, viewable reports are pretty awesome on the dashboard. So
awesome.
So then down here, I've got some more links. So my general ledger is large. I don't want to display it in a viewable report right here. So I can click this here and it'll take me to the general ledger prompt to put my date range in. And usually you want to run it on an account or a range of accounts and not the entire thing, right? So you come in here, view it, and you've got your GL showing. See, it says, hey, got all accounts. No.
Right.
So you can come, yeah, it's going to take a while. So you can come in here and play with filters, and, the auditor can do what they want with slicing and dicing data.
Great.
And then down at the bottom here, we've got supporting reconciliations. So during an audit, you're going to notice they focus heavily, usually, on the balance sheet. They do look at the income statement as well, but they want to see that your cash matches your bank reconciliation, right? So I click here. It's going to take me into my bank reconciliations that I've completed bam, they can get right to the reconciliation report. They're not even asking you one question. They get here on their own, and it saves everyone time. Okay. They can then export that, print it, wherever they want to do with it for their audit records. AR, AP aging as well. Just drills right into those prompts to pull up my aging. I'm doing a 12/31/23 audit. I hit view and bam, my aging is there. They can export to Excel so easy, and it comes out so nicely. They will love being in here working with data on their own. So yeah, and drillable again. So beyond what's on this audit dashboard. So to prepare for your audit, you're going to want to also consider things such as security. So auditors will ask about security. They're going to ask about segregation of duties and IT controls. So for security, what I like to tell people is try to keep your users where they can play with security down to a person, okay, or two max. So I don't want admin privileges full for all of my users that are business users, because that means they can come in and play with security, take roles off, add roles. They could turn themselves into an admin and see everything. That's not good for auditors. They don't like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes your IT person might be the security administrator if you're large enough. Okay. So talk with your auditors about that. If that comes up during your audit and it's a problem, talk with them about that. What's preference there? So the other thing I want to point out is with security, you have the roles, right? So you can turn on and off, different things in all these sections. Can I edit, add, delete, view, show the list only? So in the roles in your most systems, you can play with pretty granular your security. Now in Intacct, it's very, very easy to understand what they mean. I've seen some that are not understandable, strangely. Do I want to add a cash account? It says add in a checkbox, right? It makes sense.
They're very straightforward, and I think that's the beauty of the rules, permissions in Intacct. I think it's honestly another feature that just saves time and headache.
Yes, you don't have to be an IT person to understand security in here.
Exactly.
So with that, you also have two-factor authentication you might want to deploy. Now, this gets into the fraud discussion, but there are companies that are getting hacked because they don't have the security robust enough. So I don't know if I have this on in this environment, but there's a two-factor authentication over here where you'll put your cell phone number in and it'll prompt you when you log in. It doesn't do it every time, but basically when you log into a new device, it's going to ask for that. And randomly too, it'll ask for your cell phone number and the code. Okay. So highly suggest that.
Yeah. And then just to point that out too, you can also set your default for how long until it logs you out when you're idle and things like that too. And so, that's important. So maybe, hey, if I've been idle for 15 minutes, I want it to log me out, that type of thing. So that way, if you walk away from your desk for an extended period of time and somehow it's still open or something like that, you're protected.
It'll log you out. Yep. That's a good point. Yes. Very good point. Also with the IT controls and with basically Intacct in general, there's a SOC 2 report that, since they're a software for service type of company, you can request a SOC 2 report as well, because your auditors might ask for that as well.
I was actually going to bring that up. It's more and more common these days for auditors to request that SOC 2, whether it's Sage Intacct or really any other platform. They typically require you to sign an NDA to receive that report. So just know that going into an audit, maybe give yourself a couple of weeks. If you know an audit's coming, hey, let's go ahead and get that SOC 2 report in the works, because it may take some time to get that back to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So on top of all of what we've discussed, segregation of duties is something else I wanted to point out, and what can help in Intacct, what they've built. So when you look at certain things in construction. So a lot of companies are created, new vendors. You have new construction companies popping up all over the place. You also can start a new construction company and rename it. And there's not a whole lot of controls in our country for just creating a construction company or creating a company, period, right? So
it's pretty simple. $50.
Yeah.
You've got a new LLC.
Yeah, exactly. So who am I? Who is that vendor? Is this a real vendor? That's what I'm talking about here. So I've seen many, because I used to be an auditor, I've seen many companies go through an accounts payable person that has too much control in their company. They can cut the check. They have the signature electronically in the system. They also can add a vendor. They reconcile the bank account. You do not want that in your company, no matter what size you are. You want some controls in place. If you're small, you can do some things to mitigate it without having to spread out all of that. So for example, if I'm an owner of a construction company or if I'm a controller, I can have my AP person be able to add a vendor, but I'm going to get this queue here as the controller that is going to approve that vendor. Now, I don't have one set up right now, but when there's one in here, what that does is it gives me the approve or decline button. Yep, go ahead, Adam. Now you can pay this vendor. Okay. So what I would suggest doing is making sure that the W-9 is obtained for that new vendor. Did my AP person get the W-9? Is it attached in here? Do they have the 1099 info filled out right? If they're required to be bonded or have insurance information in, if you're collecting that at that high level, is that all in there? Okay, great. I'm going to approve it. Now my AP person can pay bills to that vendor. Okay. That's going to stop them, for the most part, from being able to create fictitious vendors and then pay them. It could be their wife. There could be their, husband. They could make a fake company up and pay them and you might not even know. Yep. So it's happened.
And we have, we'll link the video in another video in this series. We go over approvals in a fairly lengthy format. And even if you're a small company, I'm talking one, maybe two people in accounting, I don't care how much you trust that individual. You have to put accounting controls in place. In this day and age, it's just fraud is just way too easy, frankly, if you don't have these accounting controls in place.
And, people think, this person doesn't need the money. Like there's no motivation for them. That is not the reason people commit fraud. The main reason is that they can. It's kind of backwards than what you think. So, yep, it's exactly right. So another thing is in payroll, you can, they can create ghost employees. So, you just want to make sure you're reviewing new employees, somebody else than the payroll person. You have things, like you have your billings where you don't want your accounts receivable person to be reconciling billings and WIP and all that if they're receiving the payments in. So you want to make sure you're looking at those payments and those are real customers as well. They're not lapping those over. So just some high level ones for construction. Vendor subcontractor kickbacks are kind of huge. You want to look at profit fade on jobs and make sure that you're not basically having a project manager create a fictitious vendor somehow, right? Or escalating a change order and then they're getting money on the side. So profit fade will, when you look at your profitability reports on jobs from time period to time period, will help with that as well. So just a couple of things in construction to watch out for. The auditors love it if you put these in place. That's why we're talking about it, to help prevent fraud, because that is a requirement of a company. You do need to put controls in place to prevent fraudulent activity.
Well, and that just goes back to the power of Sage Intacct, native dimensional accounting too. So you can run a P&L on a specific project manager. You can run it on a specific department or a set of jobs. So you can understand, where your business is at in relation to that. And these approval processes are important because they're going to catch things before they ever become a problem. And if you're an owner who's not necessarily an accountant, or you're an owner who's not necessarily completely familiar with the things that we've been talking about, like a P&L and a cash flow and a balance sheet, things like that, you can get ripped off.
Oh yeah. I've seen it way too many times. So
Yep.
yeah. Like, for example, this is a job graph. Like my project manager, if they keep going down, right, what's going on? So just don't close your eyes to things that look strange.
Well, perfect. Lisa, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know this was a little bit of a longer episode, but we hope you found it valuable. If you'd like to take advantage of that auditor dashboard that Lisa has created, drop us a comment down in this video and we'll get it out to you. In the meantime, Lisa, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Reed.
All right, guys. Hey, take care. If you like this video, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.